There is so much going on with the Chicago Bears right now. You have tuned in to the exact right podcast. Welcome into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer. He's just Dan Wiederer right now. I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Actually, I'm wrong. Today, we are recording on a Friday. Friday is your final day writing for the Chicago Tribune, correct?
It is. And just moments ago, I sent over 4 practice observations from today's joint practice with the Buffalo Bills as my last little installment here. Now, I do have a big story on Ben Johnson that will probably publish sometime next week, which will be my last little punctuation on my time at the Tribune. But right across the finish line, I'm sprinting, Grote. It's Friday, August 15th, and this is it. This is the end of the road for me and the Chicago Tribune, and it's hard to believe.
That's wild, and I assume you're not ready to reveal to the world what is next for Dan Wiederer, because make no mistake about it, Monday. Okay, Dan is still going to be covering the Chicago Bears every day of his life. Dan is still going to be a huge part of Take the North, as in he will still be on the Take the North podcast, so don't get worried about any of that stuff. Dan is going to officially reveal. Some of you have sniffed it out, but Dan will reveal it officially for which publication he will be covering the Chicago Bears, and he will do that on Monday.
Will you be doing that? If it's a publication, maybe it's not a publication, maybe it's something else. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Let's leave it wide open.
Just tightening the intrigue. I will say this: that this is the weirdest job change I've ever had because I'm really not changing much. So like the process of normally mentally checking out from a job you're leaving hasn't occurred. And I had somebody say to me like, "Why are you still working so damn hard?" And I'm like, "Well, it's just kind of going to continue for me. I'm just going to kind of, it's like getting traded mid-season, right? You just kind of you figure out your way and you try to dive into it in the best way you know how."
Yeah, man, you're like Khalil Mack in 2018 for that place that you're going. It's like, oh, we got who here? Wow. All right, let's get into it, man. You mentioned the observations that you put in the Chicago Tribune today. Joint practice here as we record on a Friday. The Bears play the Bills on Sunday. Joint practice out there with that team. Observations. Dan was at Halas Hall. I was actually at Wrigley Field doing a radio show today, so I was, again, not out there. So, Dan, tell us what you saw, the good and the bad, in the dual practice with the Bears and the Buffalo Bills.
Well, I will tell you that the lead observations at ChicagoTribune.com are going to center around a quarterback that you might know. His name is Mitch Trubisky, and so we'll have more on Mitch at the end of this podcast. So it was fun to reconnect with him as he came back to Halas Hall for the first time since January of 2021. And so his return here had a little nostalgia for Mitch. But we're going to start with the Bears defense today because, Grote, I was focused on – now let me ask you this. You've been out here. Those back practice fields, which one's field 3 and which one's field 4? I think field 4 is the one that's closest to the railroad tracks, right? And field 3 is the one closest to the building?
That's what I always have said, yeah. Okay. Or that's what I would assume. The near field is 3, the far field is 4.
All right, so let's go with that. My eyes were fixated on field 4 for most of today, which is where the Bears' first-team defense was going up against a certain quarterback known as Josh Allen, the reigning MVP of the National Football League. And so it was fun to see the Bears kind of get next to that measuring stick and see how they measure up. They measured up favorably today, which, Grote, that's super encouraging to see a defense come out. By the way, I'm in a high ruckus zone, as you can probably hear.
No, it's okay. It's tolerable. It just sounds like natural sound right now, like you have an audience.
You can see in the reflection of this beautiful display case behind me, all the people storming up the stairs and not really mindful of the Take the North quiet down on the set signs that I hung out all around here.
I was going to say, you need those like golf quiet please signs. Quiet please.
But so, the defense held their own today, and more than held their own. 3 interceptions of Josh Allen by the first team defense. One of them, I believe, was negated by a defensive penalty, but you had a Kevin Byard interception in 7-on-7 with a beautiful play on the ball, and he wrestled it away from Dalton Kincaid. You had a Tremaine Edmonds interception, which there's a notable element to that, Grote, because he and Josh Allen were both first-round picks of the Buffalo Bills in the same year in 2018. So Tremaine was able to get his old draft class buddy with a pick at the goal line that was started by Jaquan Brisker, who came in and made a great play on the ball, and the ricochet found Tremaine Edmonds, who was making his way toward the ball. And then later, Nashawn Wright had an interception on what appeared to be a pass deflected by Gervon Dexter. And so when you see the defense flying around the way they have through most of camp and doing it against an opponent that has a high-powered offense with a quarterback who's an MVP, you say, okay, this checks out. This defense is having a strong camp, and they're doing it right now without Jalen Johnson and without Kyler Gordon. And so you start to feel a lot better about what that unit is going to bring to the field September 8th against the Minnesota Vikings?
Well, it's funny, man, because this is now, I think that's Tremaine Edmonds' I want to say it's his third pick of the camp.
Fourth, maybe.
Yeah, he's had a really good camp. He's also been really good when I've seen him in coverage against Colston Loveland. I mean, or other tight ends or whomever. He's had a pretty good camp. I think it probably has gotten in his head just a little bit that he has not been what the Bears expected him to be when they gave him the money that he did. He's been I don't even know if disappointment is the right word. He just hasn't lived up to expectations for me. And, you got TJ Edwards there, maybe doing more of the work as the Mike linebacker. And that could have, could just a little warning to Edmonds. I was on Buffalo radio the other day, and it was funny, man. Of course, they asked me, hey, how's Tremaine Edmonds? And I told him basically what I told you, that he's been a relative disappointment, not a bad player. He's a legit starter. He should start for the Bears, all of that stuff. And they said to me, that sounds like Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's been the report since he's been in the league, that the splash plays just aren't there enough. And you're paying him to be a major impact player. By the way, I feel like I should be like a Bears quarterback in the domes on the road here and just like cover my ears and like try to hear you clearly and then give the signals and get it.
Well, I feel like if it's a home game for you, you should be able to quiet down the crowd. Do the hand gesture, the little pat down that quarterback.
Sometimes the home crowd doesn't remember that they got to be quiet on the set.
Well, they got that clock operator problem too. So as Case Keenum called out, remember, with the putting those seconds back on the clock.
Right. So if the Bears can get this kind of production out of Edmonds during the regular season, I think they will be pleased. Likewise, I mentioned that the Edmonds interception today was created by Jaquan Brisker, who had a big day today. He was flying around, started in 7-on-7 period with the way he was in coverage and breaking up passes and playing with the type of energy that we know Jaquan has. We all know that durability and health are the big question marks on his ledger right now. But, man, he's had a really good camp. And you just sort of sit there and you watch him day in and day out. And this has been one of the first camps that he has been healthy the entire time. And you're like, man, if the Bears could get him for like 14 to 16 games this year, this defense will be better for it. And so this is a shout out to the performance he had today on that practice field, because you could tell he's one of those guys that understands today is a measuring stick, right? And he understands that that's the MVP playing. And that's a guy that thirsts for those moments. And he really, really played well. And I'd be hard pressed to imagine that this coaching staff found somebody else on the defensive video from today's practice that played with the activity and the aggressiveness that Jaquan had today. So that's worth noting for sure.
Before we get to the Bears offense and what Caleb Williams did today, I want to stay on the defense for one more item, and it's a very positive item, all positive items, it feels like, with the defense today. Shamar Turner.
Yeah,
I've been hearing noise that he's back out there for the first time of day one of training camp. Full pads for Shamar Turner today, the second round defensive lineman.
Look, there's going to be a ramp up period. It's been 3.5 weeks, almost 4 weeks since he was last on the practice field, and so there's going to be a period here where he's going to have to get himself back and ready to play at full speed. But good sign, right? Like that he's out there and ready to get back after it. And the Bears are going to need some of their health woes to become less as we get closer and closer to September 8th. On another injury note, Case Keenum out for today's practice with a leg injury he suffered on Thursday. That's going to probably change the way that they handle the game reps on Sunday against the Bills. So that'll be interesting to see. Maybe a little more extended time for Austin Reed, or does that give Tyson Bagent a little more time to work through some things, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do want to get into, we still at this moment, we'll do it right now here before we talk about Caleb on the field. What do you think about playing time for Sunday? Like, how long? We know the starters are going to play. How long do you think they'll go?
Look, I think it's going to. It's a great question on whether you're willing to just like pull the defense out while you're still playing the offense, if that makes sense. Because I think the offense needs more, right?
Yes.
So I think if you could get the defense to just knock some rust off and get through, just some game familiarity again, you'd feel good about it. The offense, I think, is. I think Ben wants to see. Some success strung together, and right, like success doesn't necessarily mean you have to have multiple scoring drives, but you just have to be operationally smooth, and it's got to look like the head coach wants it to look when the regular season starts. And so I think that's going to be part of the factor here is that, if you go 3 and out, obviously you're going to go back out on the field for a second series. And so I think some of this is hinging on how they perform, right? And what it looks like as they're performing. And I think that's going to give the head coach an opportunity to kind of size things up in real time and figure out, okay, we're good now. And now's the time to come to the bench. Or, you know what, guys, I didn't see enough. And we're talking all August about championship standards. Well, we haven't met the championship standard tonight. Get back out there and get your asses back on the field and get that championship standard right.
Or I'm going to put you in an ass cast. Do you hear me? I agree, man. I mean, we can't keep hearing like almost a contradictory message of run. Let's go play, repetition, unless there is some of that. And I think that this will have been, could be a really good weekend with the dual practice. And obviously you get some quality reps in there. We'll talk about Caleb in a second. And then you can, I'd like to see the Bears offense play for a half. If it's really bad, like at the end, if they don't go out on a positive note, I am for the offense actually coming out for the third quarter, maybe one series or so. But and we're going to hear from Ben Johnson later. It's time. It's time to get serious. It's time. Like if you've been pacing yourself in camp, and you do have to pace yourself to some degree, it's time to get into the next level, the next lane, the next speed limit.
You have to pace yourself, but then you don't want to be pacing with nerves and anxiety once the season begins, because you're not where you want things to be. By the way, one more little footnote on the Bears defense. Like I mentioned that you wouldn't have known from today's practice that Josh Allen is one of, if not the best quarterback in the league right now. But there are still some throws he makes where you're like, oh, that's an MVP caliber throw. And they were doing an end of game period on both fields side by side. And Josh Allen leads a 54-yard, quote unquote, game-winning touchdown drive for the Bills, with the Bills down 6. And it ends with I think it was 23 yards to Keon Coleman on an out and up route. And Keon Coleman absolutely froze Nashawn Wright with his double move. And then just the ball that Josh Allen put into the end zone for his receiver to go get and catch. You're just like, yeah, that's why they're playing deep into January and we're in coaching searches, everything. You know what I mean? Like, their quarterback meets that moment, more often than he doesn't, and makes a play that only a few on the planet can make. And you're like, yeah, that I get it. Like that's why that dude is who he is right now.
They do it differently. It looks different when you see that sort of quarterback. And we've seen moments from Caleb Williams, that's for sure. But Dan, what did you see from Caleb Williams and the Bears offense today?
Has to rely on my good friends, Brad Biggs and Sean Hammond at the Chicago Tribune for the Caleb Williams report. Now, at the end of the practice, we did get all players from both teams on the same field, on field 3, we're calling it, the one closer to
for our purposes. Yes.
And the first team offense, Grote, this is going to stun you. They start that final period there with a false start followed by a false start,
dude.
And right, like that's the reaction up in the bleachers where you have back-to-back false starts to start a final period, and you're just like, dude, like this can't keep happening, right? Like, Colson Loveland was asked about it after practice and is like, this is unacceptable at this stage of camp. Collectively, we've got to get our arms around it. It's a full team issue, whatever the case may be. Can't keep happening, right? Like all the good things you put together cannot be interrupted by all this sloppiness and all this avoidable operational sloppiness. And so that's part of this process that's going to have to continue to get smoother as we get nearer the regular season. There was a Caleb Williams touchdown pass at the end of that period to Olamide Zaccheaus. It was one of these that you and I have talked about a lot this month. It was a point guard play where Caleb distributed on a crossing route, and like most of it was after the catch. It's Zaccheaus in space and then using speed and vision to make his way across the goal line. And so you see those types of things, and you're again, if I'm the coaching staff, I sit up in that room with Caleb and I say, look, like this is who we've got around you. These guys are super talented. They can make big plays if you just get them the football in space. That's another prime example. I do think over the last couple of days, and Caleb Williams's performance on Thursday was sharper than we've been seeing in camp, and he's been developing an increased comfort with Rome Odunze, 2 guys that came in the same draft class who should be together for a long time. To watch that chemistry start to build is very encouraging. And Rome had some big plays again today. At least one touchdown catch down in the north end zone of Field 3, where he then went over and kind of revved the crowd up after scoring. And it's that kind of energy and chemistry that you like to see. And I think Rome's had a really good camp, and I like that it's now kind of translating in his rapport with Caleb.
But I love it. I love that he's kind of flashing over the last week or so, really, Rome Odunze, because if Caleb is the guy that we are most focused on that offense, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the number 2 guy that we should be thinking about, and there's a lot of guys to think about, is Rome Odunze, because he was a first-round pick, because he is the future of this Bears wide receiving core. You need him too. Where you drafted him doesn't have to be a star. Got to be a good receiver, though.
Well, and I was talking with Big Z after practice today, and I guess we're a full 4 weeks into camp now. You wouldn't be stunned if Rome Odunze's production this season surpassed that of DJ Moore. There just seems to be more of a chemistry building between Caleb and Rome than there has been between Caleb and DJ, who have clearly, well documented, been off on different pages at times, right, during the last 15 months. And so we'll see how that kind of evolves and how the offensive game plans come to form. But good day for Rome. Good day to see Caleb and Rome connect. And now you just got to get your arms around, again, that operational stuff. I know it sounds so basic, but it's been pounded into the quarterback's head since the spring. And it's just something that has to show up Sunday night when they play the Bills on TV for everybody to watch. And if it doesn't, the lines are going to be lighting up on Sports Talk Radio on Monday if there's 3 or 4 pre-snap penalties or things that just go awry because they're not crisp and ready to perform when the football reaches the quarterback.
The false start stuff to me has reached the area of inexcusable. You know what I mean? Like we can all look past mistakes in camp because it's camp, and you even hear the Bears saying, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, however they want to put that. But I think that's one thing, like the false starts, the operation. At this point, middle of camp, I don't even know are we 3/4 of the way through camp?
Yeah, I mean we're look like a week from now they're playing their last preseason game.
Yeah, So I think, isn't that fair? Is that fair to call the false starts at this point inexcusable?
All of it is inexcusable.
Like, no, I don't want to hear like we're still working, we're making mistakes, and that's okay. No, that stuff is bad. Like that's
all
bad
of the pre-snap clunkiness is concerning. It's without question concerning. And good luck saying that in a social media forum, Grote, because you'll have tomatoes on your front door before you get home.
I'm real tough on this microphone.
that's where we're at because people are unnerved with getting progress reports on the Bears offense. And it's, I mean, I know you live it. And you get calls into the radio station and stuff posted on social where you're just like, there's a portion of this fan base that I don't know what they're going to do when some of the first month sloppiness starts to show up every single week.
The Bears fans, and I get this, they're so afraid of the idea.
Do the Rocky Balboa.
All right, I'm afraid of losing what I got. They are so afraid of the possibility that Caleb Williams won't be good. You know what I mean? Like that when people, like, there's even just a little bit of sensory in their brains about that. I understand, because I've said this a million times. I don't know where we go from here if Caleb Williams doesn't work out. I still tend to think Caleb Williams will work out, but it's not working at the moment. But if it doesn't work out, and I'm not even ready to go there.
No, yeah, right.
It's like, we're going to talk about Mitch Trubisky, like Trubisky, Justin Fields, and now here we are with Caleb Williams, a third straight highly drafted quarterback. It must work, or I don't know where we go from here, man.
Yeah, well, I've said they can't draft another one because I won't stay. If they draft it, I can't go through this again with another young quarterback.
Did you put that in your contract for your new employer?
I'm leaving as soon as the Bears draft another quarterback in the first round. I'm gone. That's written into my next gig. But like, no, to be honest, like what you just said is very important. Nobody here is drawing that conclusion.
No,
and we're not going to draw it for a while. It's just kind of, okay, keep an eye on stuff. And I think there's about 5 different paths I could go down off of what you just said, but I'm going to take the one that the head coach took today, which is it kind of marries up with something that you and I have been trying to figure out on the fly for the last month, which is like, how do you set yourself timelines and deadlines for some of this development, right? And so, like, again, like I have my own questions and curiosities about how Ben Johnson adjusts to going from the best offense in the National Football League and a Super Bowl contender to 10 steps back down the mountain where you're trying to figure out, okay, can we play at a level that can keep us competitive most weeks offensively? And that's hard for a coach to do after you've been scoring. I looked this up, Grote. There's some stats that I look up for articles I'm writing that I have to look up like 10 and 11 times because they don't compute in the brain because they're crazy. Again, here's 2 of them. The Detroit Lions scored 68 offensive touchdowns last year. That is the same total, as you know, that the Bears scored in 2023 and 2024 combined.
And the number of times that the quarterback was sacked last year.
Think about that, right? You're right. Like, think about that. And so you're like, okay, so that makes no sense. Ben Johnson's offense last year in Detroit averaged 410 yards per game. The Bears topped that total one time in 17 games. They got past the Lions average one time in 17 games. And so Ben is in this adjustment period here in Chicago of realizing that this is year 2 Caleb Williams and not year 9 Jared Goff, right? And so now how do you kind of manage your own expectations without lowering the bar that you've set high and said, I'm not going to lower this bar, right? And so there's a lot to this. So that brings me to some of what Ben Johnson talked about today. I'm going to let you listen to it and we can react on the other side of this with a whole lot of things to talk about. Here we go, Ben Johnson.
How do you balance the idea of you want it done now with Caleb realistically in the new system probably going to take some time into the season to look the way you want him to look?
Yeah, no, I think that's the balancing act that us as a coaching staff have to go ahead and figure out because, yeah, we do want it done a certain way and we know what winning football looks like. But at the same time, we're at a different stage than in year 1 than where we'll be in year 2 or year 3 of this offense and this defense. And so I do it. It's a good reminder for me, where I was last year. We played Buffalo in week 14 of the season. So I'm able to pull up that game plan and look at that game plan. We're not ready for some of those plays yet, to be frank with you. And then I go back and I look at the first game I called in 2022 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, that game plan was nowhere near what that Buffalo game plan was last year. So it's just perspective. It's the learning process, knowing where you start is not going to be where you finish, and making sure that we don't bite off more than we can chew here at this point. We just want to see these guys go out there, play clean football, and play fast.
Yeah, it hits me a certain way, Dan, when I hear the head coach, and that was Ben Johnson, when he says that we're not ready for some plays. And what he said was completely rational, that in his first game called, it was very different from the 12th game that he was called. The game plan was different and what a quarterback can consume. But I just, I don't know if I like hearing something like that. And then the other part too, Dan, I'm going to ask you a question, and obviously I'm going to hear all of your reaction to that soundbite. You think Ben Johnson's surprised that they're not farther along than you? Okay, so he probably didn't think this process would be as arduous as it seemingly is at this moment.
Yes, very direct yes answer for me, and I think you can hear him in real time sounding it out there in that soundbite of like, okay, where you start is not where you're going to finish. And, I do like that he says, like, we know what winning football looks like, because that's the credibility thing that we just talked about with those statistics I gave, right? That's what allows him to stand in front of a room and say, my methodology works. The things that I coach work. And I have the evidence of it on this game video from the 2024 Lions and the 2023 Lions. And we've watched this thing grow into winning football, right? Like that was a really, really high-powered offense that was part of a Super Bowl contending team that won 15 football games a year ago. So he can stand up there and he can demand things because he's as proven in this building at what he does as anybody is in this building. I like that. Now, I also hear him use the word perspective of kind of taking this deep breath and this zoom out and being like, man, if my quarterback is not quite ready for all the things that I would prefer to put on him, it is up to me as the leader and the head coach to alleviate some of that pressure, to take some of that off his plate and to get us in a position where we can be optimally successful where we stand right now as an offense and as a football team when we go into the regular season. And then you add to it as you see fit and as the offense gets ready for it. But I feel like that was a head coach a month into training camp starting to kind of understand, the race that he said was going to be run, like the Bears aren't winning it right now. So now you've got to figure out a way to run it at a pace that's going to get you back in line with where you want to be.
Well, Even if it is not where we all want it to be, I do like the fact that Ben Johnson is being honest with himself in his words and in his actions. And Dan,
not just honest with himself, he's being honest with you and me and
Yeah.
everybody here, right?
Amen. And and that brings us perfectly to the offensive line competition. And even though I don't like exactly where they are right now, I do like that Ben Johnson has kept this fluid and real, and they're not jamming somebody in there because they got to have this line. They do got to have this line set up pretty soon, but they're not just going to put somebody in there. Their best laid plans have not worked the way they wanted them to yet. So they're keeping this thing fluid. What can you tell us, Dan, about what you saw or heard about the offensive line today for the Chicago Bears?
Uh-oh.
Oh, Bears. Oh, no.
Uh-oh. So
no.
I'm starting with those two words. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Is that one word? Is that a hyphenated uh-oh?
It's a good question. I think it is a hyphenated uh-oh.
Either way,
yeah.
The Bears, this is the part of the race that they're definitely not winning. They wanted to have a starting left tackle nailed down, and they don't have one nailed down. And I joked on Twitter today, wondering if anybody's got Jason Peters' number.
Oh, man.
That's where we were many
he's only
years
like
ago.
42 now? I mean,
Kyle Long said he said he's 43, and I responded to Kyle Long on Twitter and said, my notes show that you're still in your 30s and that you once had to adjust to playing tackle right at the end of a preseason previously. So maybe, just maybe. But I say that because I think that they are, I don't know if stunned is too strong of a word, but they are shaken right now that they don't have more clarity on that position. I think Braxton Jones is struggling. I think you can watch it in his play. I think you can almost watch his brain working on certain plays where he doesn't feel fully back to where he was before the injury.
Yeah.
And then he has some failure. And then that failure introduces new thoughts into your head about, am I really back to where I was before the injury? Right. And you see that playing out. And then you get him up against a aggressive pass rushing team like the Bills today. And there are moments where you're like, oh man, Braxton Jones looks like a shopping cart at Target, right? And he's getting pushed around and it's not what you want it to look like. Darnell Wright gets called out by his coach the other day, right? On the right side. And Dan Richard tells you, like, there's things on tape we love. And then there are things on tape where we say when he loses focus and he loses, he starts to get a little bit fatigued, he's not playing that well. Ozzie Trapillo, the head coach, tells us more about him today and what's holding him back. I'll get to more of that in a minute. Theo Benedict, sudden surprise entry into the left tackle competition, 3 days in a row, getting first team reps. Probably will get some more on Sunday. That all leads me in to the head coach talking about the left tackle position, and we'll react to this after this.
Does Theo fit into the tackle competition right now? And is that a 3-man competition, a 4-man competition at this point?
I think he's right in the middle of it. I've been very, very excited about Theo and what he's done both on the right and the left side. So I don't think he's a guy, I know he was probably overlooked to start this competition, but the longer this thing's gone on, there's a strong argument for what he's put on tape.
With you considering, potentially continuing this evaluation through the bye week or up to the bye week, would you consider like a left tackle rotation mid games, or would you rather have a guy play one game?
We would not like to go that route. No, we want to go into a game saying this is our 5 guys. Those guys get the reps over the course of the week, and we'll go out and execute the game plan that way. But until somebody just clearly makes it known that this is their job, we have to let this thing play out.
The other day you said
mean a lot when you are looking at the matchups that you have coming in week in and week out at that left tackle position, because you're going to have Aiden Hutchinson, Michael Parsons, guys like that, opposite of whoever that left tackle is.
Yeah, this is not going to be a revolving door. That's not what we want. We want one guy to clearly come out and say this is his job. We haven't gotten that yet from our crew, and so. At some point, we have to pick somebody that's going to start week 1 if we don't have that clarity over the next, call it, week and a half, and we'll do that. And if we have to continue to battle it out over the course through the bye week, and then that's the course of that's the nature of the NFL. We're going to start. I hate to say, I'd love to have just 5 guys start on the offensive line for all 17 plus games, but that's just not reality. We're going to have a lot of guys cycling on through. It's attrition. It's a long season. That's how this thing works. And so we're not afraid of it. It'll be next man up. And, if one guy's not performing up to snuff, then we'll find someone else that can.
Grote, let the record reflect that it's August 15th and we are in the point of the program where we're asking the head coach whether there is the possibility of a rotation at left tackle, where we're asking the head coach how his assessment of the starter will go through the bye week, which is coming in week 5 for the Bears this season. And we're at a point where the head coach, in his own words, said, at some point we have to pick somebody to start week 1. Right? Like, this is not where we thought we'd be when camp began. And I think the whole conversation about the left tackle position started today when I asked Ben what he was going to be looking for today in the joint practice on Friday, Sunday in the game against the Bills, and all throughout next week. And he said clarity. In one word, clarity. He wants someone to make it clear that they deserve the starting left tackle job, and no one is doing so. With Ozzy Trapillo, I asked specifically what's held him back, and he just said it's play speed, that he is not moving fast enough, particularly with his feet, when he is asked to perform, right? And so, like, Ben went on to say later that Trapillo seems to be playing at a faster speed when they move him to the right side, which is where he played at the end of his college career at Boston College, than he is on the left. And so then you're like, okay, so you might have drafted a right tackle to try to become your starting left tackle, and he's not able to make the transition as fluidly as you thought. And so now we got to maybe put him back on the right side where you already have an entrenched starter in Darnold. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, this particular storyline of the Chicago Bears in training camp of 2025 is a mess right now.
Mm-hmm. I also think Theo Benedett is a prop, and God bless Theo Benedett. I mean, good for him that he's getting this opportunity. And if he was to win the starting left tackle job, then I'll be blown away. That's for sure. But it feels like, listening to Ben Johnson there, with him saying that nobody has, essentially saying that neither Braxton Jones nor Ozzy Trapillo has grabbed the job. So guess what I'm going to do? And by the way, Karan Amagaji, I don't even know where he is in all of this. They're like, let's bring in Theo Benedett. See what we didn't want to have to do this, but we're bringing in Theo Benedett now to see what he's got. I still think he'd have to do a ton to be shown. He's not going to be you don't think he's going to has a chance, do you, Dan?
I do think he has a chance, and that's less an endorsement of Theo Benedett and more of an indictment on what's happened with the other 3 guys since camp began. And so, I mean, like, keep your eyes on it Sunday night. Keep your eyes on it Sunday night, and then let's see what they decide to do going into next week, which is a shorter week, and as the Bears go to play that preseason finale against the Chiefs. Anything more on the left tackle issue? Because I had something to bring up from you for you from behind the curtain today a little bit.
Oh, sweet. No, I think that we have covered the left tackle situation pretty well. I mean, I think in summary, they have not chosen their left tackle yet. Pay attention to that on Sunday night. What do you got behind the curtain, Dan?
I'm just gonna say, like, so Ben Johnson was scheduled on Friday morning to come talk to us at 10:10. And he didn't get in there until about 10:15, a little bit behind schedule. And you've seen rushed head coaches come into press conferences before, and it's like, I got to check this box. Let me get in and out of here as fast as possible without saying anything. And it's abrasive and it's curt and it's not. Brent Johnson, in the 8.5 minutes he stood up at that lectern today, we just played 2 audio clips in which he was engaged, informative, direct, honest, and showed you all the reasons that people have been drawn to him, right? And I really appreciated that, because he was rushed. He had to rush out to a crossover practice with the Buffalo Bills today, and yet he stood up there and gave himself full presence in that entire moment. That was it was fun to hear those sound bites. He went on and talked about Caleb Williams being unable to meet the completion percentage threshold through most of camp. He talked about Caleb's accuracy issues being tied to his feet, and them sort of harping on the details of make sure your feet are aligned with where your target is going to be, not where it's at right now. And saying, like, this is something that we talked about going into the summer break and something we continue to harp on, and we've got to create this muscle memory. But you got just an absolute waterfall of information and insight from the head coach on a morning where he was incredibly pressed for time and had every reason to just blow us off and get the hell out of here. And so this is my thumbs up to Ben Johnson, and I'm going to put him on my, early mid-August ballot for the good guy award here for 2025, because that type of stuff is invaluable to somebody like us that covers the beat. And I just wanted to give him credit for that, because it was interesting. The other interesting part about this is that he was so pressed for time that we got into those face-off situations where it's like a movie press conference and everyone is just trying to shout their questions. And at one point, Patrick Finley of the Chicago Sun-Times and Jason Leeser of the Chicago Sun-Times, on both sides of Courtney Cronin, who was sitting between them, were screaming over each other to get their question in. I believe
sometimes versus sometimes.
Right. I believe Leisure ended up winning the faceoff, and Courtney just leaned back in her chair and said, "You work for the same outlet." and Ben Johnson, while Jason was finishing his question, was just smiling directly at Courtney, being like, I like the call out.
Yeah.
I like the call out there.
I don't miss those moments when I'm not, because I haven't been out there a lot in the last week or so. I don't miss shouting over my colleagues, trying to get questions in. A good question from our executive producer, Adam Studzinski. Can the head coach win the Good Guy Award? The head coach is eligible. Okay.
Anybody is eligible. Anybody that is a employee of the Chicago Bears who helps the media do their job at an elevated level is eligible for that award. And
okay.
So,
he's at a good pace.
You watch. By the way, this is a great segue, because do you know who the Good Guy Award winner was in 2020?
Yes, I remember, which I thought was amazing. We gave that award to Mitch Trubisky in 2020. Yes.
We sure did. Mitch Trubisky, who went through a roller coaster of a 2020. Never mind that it was a pandemic and he had to play football during a pandemic. Never mind that he, quote unquote, won the abbreviated training camp battle for the starting job with Nick Foles that summer. But Mitch was benched early in the second half of week 3 against the Atlanta Falcons. And then Mitch had to be called back from the bullpen late in that season to help Matt Nagy try to save his job as the Bears tried to get in the playoffs, in which he did successfully save Matt Nagy's job by getting the Bears into the playoffs by winning a bunch of games in December. They obviously backed in after losing to the Packers in, was it week 17 back then, or was it week 18? I don't remember. But either way, I think through the duration of that season, we all gained a great appreciation for the kind of dude Mitch was and just how fluidly he went about his business with the turbulence around him and how professional he was in everything he did. Mitch was back here today. And so we got to gather with him in the Payton Center. It started out as a Buffalo and Chicago group media session with Mitch, and then Bills reporters got pulled in a different direction, and it ended up being basically myself, Patrick Finley, Kevin Fishbane, Adam Haugh, and Zach Pearson with Mitch. And it was fun to reconnect with Mitch, who's got kind of new perspective and really fond memories from his time here, right? Like, this was his first time practicing at Halas Hall since he was preparing the Bears to play the Saints in the playoffs in January of 2021. And so he said, look, like, pulling in here, like, a lot of good feelings come back to you that I was the starting quarterback here. Good. And like it was really cool to hear him talk about some things. One of the more notable exchanges was when Patrick Finley asked him about living in the fishbowl as QB1 in Chicago and how he would kind of convey some advice to the guy currently living in that fishbowl, Caleb Williams. And Mitch said, yeah, there's a lot of pressure with it and is a fishbowl, but lean into it because it's a privilege. The pressure is a privilege. And I kind of miss not being in that fishbowl. I kind of miss not being QB1 in Chicago.
He misses the TVs being on at the Hall?
Yes, for sure. And I think there is some of that for him where he says, look, like, you come in here and then you blink your eyes and 9 years later, you're a backup with another team and you're coming back here and you're reflecting on some of the things that you went through. And that there is something to just being in the moment and living in it, as stressful as it may be and as difficult as it may be at times. I appreciated that from him because I think he's got, and somebody said, did you feel like you did a good job of enjoying it while you're in the moment? He said, I did. It's just different now. I'm a little older, a little more experienced. I think I just have a different perspective on what it is. And again, like he misses it a little bit. So that was kind of interesting to hear. He did say that he went out to dinner at Monteverde. I don't know what Monteverde is, but he sounded very excited on Thursday night. He went there. Would not tell us where he was going to dinner on Friday night or Saturday night. Wanted to keep that private just so nobody went to try to find him. And then the other thing I would say is, like, we took Mitch back into the cold tub time machine, and he said 2018, obviously, thrill ride, just as you and I remember it, a thrill ride. Like, it felt like we couldn't lose. Felt like he was surrounded by a team that was full of guys who were all about the right things. And so it was cool to kind of remember that joyride again, a 12-win division championship season in which, again, the Bears won 9 of their last 10 regular season games, and the only loss was an overtime loss in New York with Chase Daniel as their starting quarterback. So that was as good as it got during my time on the beat.
2018. Feels so good. I'd imagine too, it doesn't hurt Mitch Trubisky's psyche that he looked at his successor, who was supposed to be the golden guy in Justin Fields, did not work out. Right. He knows what's up with Caleb Williams, that it's not good right now. So to some degree, I would say his legacy is even aging back. Because you mentioned he got the Bears to the playoffs twice.
Yeah, 52 starts here, and he had a winning record and helped them there twice. He's immensely proud of 2020, which I think he should be, because we did talk about that for a minute or two of just handling everything that we talked about that he had to handle that year, and doing so in a manner where it's like, yeah, look, like it's cliche. You can control your effort and your attitude, but if you do that, you'll be respected. And he did that his entire time here. It's just kind of this is a Mitch Trubisky appreciation thread here. I think he was happy to see some of us that covered him on the beat. He was very, very cordial, and he, said, "Long time no see. It's good to be back around you guys." And so it was good. It was good to kind of reconnect in that moment, because this is it's a people business, and you do appreciate what goes into it and how much these guys in their early 20s have on their plates, right? And the pressure of the existence. And I think Mitch appreciates what he learned from it. Now he's got a close friend named Josh Allen, who's got him on a football team that has a chance to be the last team standing this year. And so I think he's leaning into that part of his second chapter of his football journey.
Wow. And it does sound weird to refer to Mitch Trubisky as a 9-year veteran.
9 times.
9 times. It is wild. Dan, we have a brand new segment.
I love it.
On Take the North to go out strong here on this particular episode. And I don't know if our producer Adam Studzinski is around right now. He's like doing multitasking. If he is, I definitely invite him to join us here. But this is our best bet segment. Our best bet segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And this is where we have a little bit of fun with the gambling odds, and then you and I can kick it around a little bit. And the one that we have decided upon, the one that Adam Studzinski, who is here, has decided upon. I want to make sure that you got the proper credit, my friend. You put in the chat, Adam Studzinski joining us along with Dan Wiederer and me, Mark Grote, that Rome Odunze to score a touchdown on the Bears' first offensive drive on Sunday night in the preseason game against the Buffalo Bills. It is at plus 1,500. Is that right, Studs? Did I do that right? Did I say it all right?
That's right. So, and technically, it's on Rome Odunze's first time on the field. So we're assuming that'll be the Bears' first offensive possession. But the first time that Rome Odunze enters the game on offense, if the Bears score a touchdown, if he scores a touchdown, on that possession, then you play. Then the bet wins, and it's plus 1,500, which is pretty good odds. Good odds. You bet $1 and win 15.
I don't think Rome Odunze will score the first touchdown of this Bears game. I'm going hard contrarian. I believe that, I guess if we're doing this, who is going to score the Bears' first touchdown? That is assuming the Bears will score a touchdown on their first drive. I'm going to go. You ready for this? This is not that exciting. I'm going to go DeAndre Swift scores the first Bears touchdown of the night.
I believe you can bet on that. I'll look that up real quick. Go ahead, guys.
Can't bet on that? Oh, okay. Am I ruining this segment?
I believe you. No, you're fine. This is what the segment's for. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay.
I am going to go with Rome Odunze.
Aha! Ding, 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 ding.
We talked earlier in the episode today about the growing chemistry between he and Caleb. Don't forget, they had that near touchdown pass in the preseason last year.
That counts.
When the end zone lines were not painted properly at Soldier Field.
Oh, that's right.
Rome couldn't find the white chalk, and so he stepped out of bounds. Maybe Caleb gets another highlight reel pass to Rome on the first drive of the game on Sunday night and sends everybody into hysterics, because that would certainly help those who decide to follow Studs' lead here and hammer this one. And I'm going to be one of them.
Studs, FanDuel, Mr. FanDuel Sportsbook. What do you got there, Studsley?
So on the FanDuel app, which is fantastic. If anyone doesn't have it, I recommend it. I do not see a bet for DeAndre Swift to score on his first offensive drive.
I blew the
props,
segment. Yeah.
No, the prop. Well, no, it's not your fault. The props for preseason are fairly limited. So in the regular season, you can definitely make that bet. But not right now. Not as of today, anyway. You look on Sunday morning, it might be different. You never know.
Okay. What do you think, Stud? You got Rome Odunze? You down with the plus 15? I guess you are, since you're the one who came up with it. That makes sense. So you two guys are down with Odunze, and I had to go contrarian just a little bit and give the guy that most people are not thinking about to score the Bears' first touchdown, DeAndre Swift. A couple more things here, actually.
Yeah.
Stud, you'll appreciate this too. We didn't even talk about the jerseys that you are sitting in front of. If you are watching visually here, Dan is at Halas Hall, and I see a number 23. That is a Devin Hester right there. I see a number 9 with my initial instinct with Jim McMahon, but that is certainly not a Jim McMahon era Bears jersey.
And hey,
it is a classic uniform.
Real quick, guys, we got to close the loop on this. The best bet statement was brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, buddy. See, I blew the segment.
For first time, we got to get that cleaned up operationally. This wonderful jersey here is from the 1940s.
Oh my God!
The placard here in the museum exhibit, and it is a classic uniform.
Classic
that was worn in the 1940s by Bill Osmanski.
Oh my God! Osmanski wore that jersey. I did not know. Osmanski.
Not Trubisky. Osmanski.
That is a perfect Chicago Bears name right there. I honestly have never heard of him, and I like to think I know my Bears history pretty well. Time for me to brush up on my 1940s
His
World War.
Jersey is hanging right next to Devin Hester.
That's right. A certain number 23, which was worn by a certain Michael Jordan, a certain Ryan Sandberg, and a certain Devin Hester, and a certain, you ready for the actually low key? I did an appearance one time with one Sean Gale, who is a member of the 80s Bears, 85 Bear, who wore number 23 as well. It was early in Hester's career. And I'm like, at that time, I was like, because I was so loyal to the Bears, I go, you're the real number 23, man. and he's like, right? And then Hester goes on to become a Hall of Famer.
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops is right. Anything else? Danny, I mean, man, we covered a lot here today. Anything else before we get out of here and head towards preseason game number 2?
Yeah, no, I think really the only thing left for me is this is the last time my name on this podcast will say Dan Wiederer, Chicago Tribune. On Sunday, when we record from the post game against the Buffalo Bills, it will say Dan Wiederer, unemployed for a day. And then we will have news on our Monday podcast.
Holy shit. So you could just run ragged that night. You don't have to write on Sunday night.
It's going to be very strange being
up in the press
without having to write.
Maybe you and I do some damage in the locker room, man. Like, you know what I mean? You and I, like, look, man, Dan and I, when we're in the locker room, what I mean by that, yeah, that did sound pretty bad. I'm saying, like,
we're gonna be drinking, or we're gonna be
no, you and I can work in tandem.
Okay,
maybe we can get some stuff for Take the North. It's very like Dan and I have our own agendas in the locker room, so we always just pass by each other, maybe a fist pump or something. But usually Dan's all business, trying to get all his sidebars and 3 things about the Bears and thoughts and all that stuff for the trip. He doesn't have to do that stuff. It's pretty light for me too. So let's do some damage. All right, Dan?
I'm in for some damage doing on Sunday night at Soldier Field. It will be good. I will just say this as I walk out. It's weird because you don't even go to an office anymore, right? Like I don't think that the last time I was actually in a Tribune office was in like 2020 before the pandemic. And so my last day, I'm just going to walk out in the parking lot at Halas Hall like I always do. But I told you the other day that about my first day walking into the Tribune Tower and just having that moment outside of being like, this is crazy that this opportunity is here. And
wow moment. Yeah.
One of the emotions that I've had this morning and today is just like being like, I kind of vowed to myself that day that I was never going to take the opportunity for granted, and the responsibility for granted. And I walk out the door today. Obviously I'll be back in these doors in 2 to 3 days. But I feel very proud that I did that, that I never, not a single day of 12 years on this beat that I take it for granted. And that feels good as I turn the page.
Well, look, we'll talk more about this on Monday when you reveal what is next for Dan Wiederer. And what is next is covering the Chicago Bears. For which place, I will not reveal. I will let Dan do that on Monday. But look, man, you should be proud working for the Chicago Tribune. You're an absolute baller, what you've done. I feel like you can honestly say, and you just said by not taking it for granted, you have not left any stone unturned, so to speak. You gave it your all, and you've been absolutely awesome in the Tribune and obviously on this podcast.
That first day on the job that I told you about, that was the first day I ever met Rich Campbell. And so we went through our first day of orientation together. His first day was my first day. And we left the Tribune Tower that day and we went to the Billy Goat just as like hey, it's our first day. We're newspaper people in Chicago. We got to go to the Billy Goat and have a cold one. And so, it's that's it. That's the end of the newspaper run for me. I've been in newspaper since I got out of college. So this will be the end of a quarter century in the newspaper business. And so
wow.
interesting. And the Billy Goat's a good place for newspaper men to go talk about newspaper things.
And Dan just gave away a clue. Not going to a newspaper.
Lot of clues.
Wow, lot of clue. Yeah, if you don't know it by now, man, I mean, figure it out. But we'll ask you guys before Dan reveals it if you know, for your predictions and all that. Or maybe you can give us your predictions and the feedback wherever that may be. That's it for us. That is it for us. I have enjoyed this edition of Take the North, like all of them. Thank you to Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune. For Adam Studzinski, our executive producer, I am Mark Grote saying thank you for listening to and watching the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.